let me just jump right into it and say that without a shadow of a doubt, that Evil Dead Rise is definitely one of my favorite horror flicks of the year so far. With Scream 6 being one of the most brutal contenders out there for 2023, Evil Dead's newest addition to the franchise just makes it look weak in comparison. Now, this movie isn't some next level storytelling film a cinema snob would just love to talk about as if it was Citizen Kane. Hell no! Evil Dead Rise is a fun, back to basics requel in a sense, if you will, filled with classic callbacks, Easter eggs, and a wild ride for everyone to enjoy. This is just gonna be a somewhat quickie review, but expect a full-on in-depth review later on. I'm your friendly neighborhood S-Smart employee.
Shop smart, shop S-Smart.
That groovy Frankie. Yours truly. Now come on, let's get some. Evil Dead Rise is the second film in the franchise to start something new and something different for the franchise. Rather than being another cabin in the woods horror film, it came out swinging like Army of Darkness by placing this movie in an apartment set in the City of Angels. But before we can even get there, however, this requel does take place a day prior to the events of the beginning scene in the cabin, and I won't ruin that cabin scene. Now, moving on from there, our main cast of characters range from Ellie, the mother in the film who is essentially the unlucky human that gets possessed by the evil, and thank God this time around Raimi, Tapert, and the crew did not do another scene that happened similar to Cheryl and Mia, because that's already too much, and I'm tired of seeing that shit. It's too much for me to handle. Anywho, her children, Bridget, who seems to be a young angsty teen that very much hates the rich and loves horror films, as well as Danny, the aspiring musician of the family, and their youngest one being Cassie. And oh my god, I just have to tell you that this girl is a trooper throughout the whole movie, and you'll see as to why, as well as her estranged sister, Beth. Just like the original film and the 2013 remake, Evil Dead Rise is centered around family and friends trying to, in a sense, reconnect. We come to find out that Ellie is a hardworking single mom thanks to her deadbeat husband divorcing her, and Beth being a punk rock techie on the road 24/7 trying to break out in the scene, causing the two to have a rift in their relationship. Now, it isn't totally screwed as both Ellie and Beth still love one another and manage to talk things out right up until a natural disaster starts to shake things up. Aside from the main cast of characters that we're going to all know and love and try to root for, the movie does add new victims ranging from the likes of Jake, Scott, Gabriel, and the old fart with the shotgun, who for some reason wasn't credited on Google, but I had to go all the way into IMDb, into the straight bowels of hell to find this man's name, because I forgot his name in the movie, Mr. Fonda. Yeah, forgettable characters in the long run, if I'm being honest, but not hating or dissing, but they're essentially there to just die and be obstacles for the story, or plot devices in a sense. Now, moving on! Again, just like the originals, all hell breaks loose when some bumbling buffoon comes into contact with the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, or as everyone knows, the Book of the Dead, or as some influencer that I like pissed me off, the scary book with the scary face on it. This occurs thanks to a giant earthquake happening as the family is split up, from Ellie and Beth being in the apartment trying to patch things up, talk everything over, up to her children fetching pizza from Ashley Slash's Pizzeria, where Deadites can come get some. Due to this earthquake, it unearths a door to the other side, that being an abandoned room that was set to be forgotten, locked away forever. And it's here where we get to see a new rendition of the Book of the Dead. And this is where we come to find out later on that this is just one of 3 others, as the lore suggests there to be 2 different books of the dead out there. This movie, Scotty, if you will, is none other than Danny, as Danny is the one curious to find out exactly what is in these pages, as well as what's on those vinyl records that were locked away. It causes the evil to come right back. What good ever comes from reading though, am I right?
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
Let's just go. Our new cast of characters have to survive, otherwise they'll be dead by dawn.
Dead by dawn. Dead by dawn. Dead by dawn. Dead by dawn.
Evil Dead Rise has to be one of the craziest additions yet to the franchise. With this entry tying up all earlier works up to now, it had so many awesome moments as well as gross and what the fuck moments throughout. Where does it succeed, however, is that question, and what good does this vile, disgusting, horrifying roller coaster of a sequel or requel have to offer? Though the story is a simple one like the previous iterations and comes off feeling like the 2013 remake in many ways, it still manages to have fun with its concept of an evil book unleashing hell on earth thanks to dumb, curious characters out there. The main cast of characters are essentially the ones we root and hope for to the very bitter end, whereas the side characters we know are going to meet horrible ends rather quickly, but it's the setup and the pacing that make this film succeed, as well as the new claustrophobic setting. Compared to the open woods as well as the castle, this is just something completely new. Although you would think that they are able to escape the apartment and go out into the actual world, they're stuck in a condemned building. Their studio apartment, or their apartment, almost feels like a studio apartment, and with them being locked in there with no stairs and the elevator not working at all, it just adds more fuel to the fire. It adds more terror and it adds more stakes as they have to figure out how to get out of there. It is a nice touch after all, but the kills and ideas for the new Deadites and the demons were even cooler. Similar to 2013's Evil Dead as well as Evil Dead 2, where the Necronomicon would show pages of certain Deadites being brought onto our world, this one does exactly just that. Where the first demon is the one that possesses the mother, and we get to see new iterations possess the next potential victims of this sequel. Evil Dead Rise is a crazy roller coaster ride of a movie. I love the concept of the 3 books and how it does try its best to tie up all the films, as it's always been a weird thing and a weird concept with these movies is they all feel connected, but they're never really connected, if that makes sense. They're hardly ever brought together. The show was the only one in the entire franchise to try to connect everything, even with its loose ends, in a messy but fun way, but it did leave the 2013 remake almost like a black sheep. But now with Evil Dead Rise being a direct sequel to Army of Darkness, using a concept of 3 Necronomicons, with Ash being one of the defenders, the Jefe, if you will, to Mia being the second victim that has to go through hell and back in that cabin, to now the apartment setting in LA, it just leaves us with wanting more as to see where the next iteration of Evil Dead is going to do and where it's going to take place and how it's going to be connected to this crazy, confusing, but fun lore. I know that, it may not be the goriest film out there ever since the likes of Terrifier 2 came out just a year ago, but the amount of gore and practical effects mixed with VFX used in this movie is just insane, as well as classic callbacks to films like The Shining with just an entire scene shot with nothing but blood. It's just so amazing, not to mention the fact that this horror movie is just one of many to now partake in breaking one forbidden, unwritten rule in horror as to getting rid of kids in a horror film, and it does it in a very brutal off-screen way. It's just ugh. If I had to compare the quality of horror or the gore, I wouldn't really say Scream 6, as it does a better job than that, but it comes close to recent films such as Terrifier, but not too gross enough to just shock and awe the audience, but enough to just make you go, what the hell did I just watch, and did that really just happen on screen? Again, this may not be the perfect film, as it does just have a simple premise to it, And it does feel like an above average film, as it feels similar to the likes of the first Evil Dead as well as the 2013 remake, but it does try its best to flesh out its characters as well as make itself something new and different for the new audience of fans for this generation, as well as trying to give back to the older fans like me. Or not technically me since I'm not a boomer, but you know what I'm saying, the die-hard fans of this franchise. It does try to test itself in this new environment, and granted, I know that a lot of fans are going to be disappointed, mainly because Bruce Campbell is not a main character in this film, and by that, we don't really see Ash, but with the lore now being about 3 books and possible sequels out there left to possibly fill the void for us Evil Dead fans, I'm okay with it. While I'd love to see Ash come back at some point, this sequel does prove that the franchise can work if they do try some new, different approaches to it, but keeping faith to the actual lore itself. My only issues, like I was going to say, I do love these characters such as Beth and Ellie, and I love the chemistry that both actresses share as they try to get you to feel for their characters and they try to build onto them so you can actually adore them. I just wish we got to know more about their past. I wanted to know just a little bit more and dive into it. But definitely Beth is one of the standout characters that carries this movie on its back during the second and third acts of this film. Beth goes from just being this estranged sister that didn't really care and put herself out there trying to make a career to now wanting to try to piece everything with her lost family, trying to be there as a role model for them, to the very end where she comes off like this Ellen Ripley-like badass character that does her best to try and save everyone, but like every horror film out there and some superhero films, you just can't save everyone. But it's the act of courage that she shows, the act of responsibility, the love that Beth has for her family, that she would do anything for them. While I'd want to give this film a 10 out of 10, I can't just show bias because, again, there are some problems with this film, as such as I stated earlier. Fleshing out some of the characters could have been done a bit better. A little bit more to the story wouldn't have been so bad, but I did enjoy this film, and I'm not just gonna lie and say I didn't enjoy it. I would be slapping myself in the face if I gave this movie a 6 or 7, because it's at least better than that. Again, it's above average, so I'm gonna give it at least an 8. Evil Dead Rise is definitely going to slash its way into the box office, especially right now, and it's definitely going to carry the franchise just for a little bit. I just hope we get more installments later on with Bruce and the Ghost Speeders, or at least the Ghost Speeders, because I know that Bruce is retiring the character, but come on. We need more of the Ghost Speeders, or even Ash's daughter, ever since the series ended off with a whimper rather than a bang, thanks to stars just pulling the plug. For now, however, my friends and family, this is where I leave you guys. I have some deadites to send back to hell, otherwise the script takes away the channel, and it's the only thing I have left since I am now currently broke, thanks to no hours at my job. But expect the full review soon, alright? I've been your friendly neighborhood S-Smart employee, that guy Frankie, yours truly, and wait, fuck, where'd I leave my Necronomicon at?